Okay, recording in live. Woo, Friday Night Feels. We're here again. Yay! Survived another week.
Right.
Hello, everyone. I am licensed mental health counselor and certified life coach Patrick Monette, and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Feels. Friday Night Feels is a show that focuses on a variety of wellness related issues such as mental health, addiction, health, stress management, mindfulness, and much more. The focus of the show is to create connection and to be able to talk about issues that affect us all and how to be the healthiest versions of ourselves that we could be. Each show, I invite a guest to come and join me and share their experiences. And tonight, I'm so excited to have the lovely Janet White join us. So, welcome, Janet, to Friday Night Feels.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So yay! So I'm just going to share a little bit of Janet's background. So she is a registered nurse, author, and certified coach. She's a devoted grandmother and loves sharing her passion for living a happy, healthy, alcohol-free lifestyle. Her story includes a long-term abusive married life, bout with cancer, self-esteem, body issues, and grief. Her book, Finding Bliss Beyond the Buzz, tells her story and shares her method for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. It highlights how eliminating alcohol helped her to discover her passion and finally learn how to be happy with her authentic self, imperfections and all. Today, she empowers women to be the best versions of themselves, and you can join her every Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook Live. So welcome,
Awesome.
Shannon. There's so much,
Thank
yay!
you. Thank
Exciting.
you.
So we are representing two great states. So I'm in New York tonight, and you were representing the beautiful state of Florida.
Right.
And our
I got the
backgrounds, like
beach,
mine.
you got the trees. That's right. Here we are. Look at us.
We were so connected that I put it on before we even talked. I'm like,
Yeah.
Florida. So we were just chatting before we got. So you have some really exciting news, and no one else knows it. So this is
Yeah.
breaking news on Friday Night
Yes.
Feels.
You heard it here first, people. I just got published. If you can see it.
Congratulations.
And yeah, and so it's very exciting. I've been working on it for quite some time, and just to hold it in my hand is so exciting.
Oh
So
wow, congratulations. That's so I can't wait to
yeah,
get into it and hear more about it. So today's the day you received it. So you heard it
yeah,
first here on Friday Night Feels. I can't wait to be able to get a copy
that's right.
and learn about your story.
Yeah. So yeah, so you can actually get it on Amazon. It's already on there, but
It's
yeah.
official, people. It's official. It is happening. This is
I
not a
can't believe
drill.
it. Yeah, I know. So yeah, so my the reason that I got into I even decided to share my story was um kind of like over the years we all go through a lot of different things, but I kind of have some big things that happened in my life. Like you could probably look back and name your top five or whatever, but I was married to a very abusive person for many years. And when I finally got out of that relationship, it was, unfortunately, took a gun to my head to finally get out. But I finally felt like I was living for the first time. And so that's been about 13, 14 years ago. And since then, I've been on this huge self-development journey. Like, who am I? I had been, beat down as far as just the negativity and the name calling. And, my self-esteem was really low. I had that in my personal life. In my work life, I had gone back to school. I became a nurse. I got my master's degree, and I was climbing the ladder in the corporate world.
Mhm.
So it was like things weren't adding up. He was telling me how stupid I was, but I was, moving forward in my career. So once I got that out of the picture, I started working really hard to figure out who I am and what I want. My mom died young, and my sister died, and she
Mm.
was only 50. They were both in their 50s. And it was just like, you know what, Janet, you can't wait till I mean, you've already wasted all this time in this toxic marriage, and you've got to figure out what you want to do when you grow up and do
Mm.
it.
Right.
So, and I just kept working and trying to figure out what it was that I wanted. But when the pandemic hit, And, a lot of people lost their jobs. I lost my job. And it was like, you know what? I am so happy not working. I don't, this stressful, they expect so much. I had my last boss told me, oh, you need to work 18 hours a day. You need to be able to answer emails over the weekend. We expect this. And it's just, I'm in a different place in my life. I
Well, that
don't want
sounds
to
so
work.
inhumane.
Yeah. Well, I think what it is that it was at that point where everybody was trying to keep their jobs. And I
Right,
mean, it was a crazy time,
right,
and knowing there were no jobs out
right,
there, at that everything was shut down. And
right.
so, but anyway, it was the greatest thing that happened to me. But one of the things that I realized is that I was using alcohol to kind of cope,
Okay.
especially after my sister died. I always like to have a few drinks, socially, and love my red wine at night. Thought it helped me relax. Thought it helped me sleep. But after my sister died, I realized I was kind of dependent on a little bit more stressful days at work and just come home. Never drank during the day, never, I wouldn't call myself an alcoholic, but it got to the point where, I was gaining weight. I wasn't sleeping as well. I mean, all the things that happened. And then I had a grandbaby. My daughter
Oh,
had a little girl, and I said to myself, you know what? I want to live. I don't want to die young like my sister and my mom. I want to be around for my grandbaby. And I knew it wasn't healthy what I was doing. I was overweight. I was overworked. I was drinking too much. I mean, all those things.
mhm.
And I said, I got to make a change in my life. And I completely changed my lifestyle. I started healthy eating. I got into exercise and yoga. And then I took a break from alcohol. And man, that made all the difference. It's so hard in our society to stop drinking, because that's the one drug where, I mean, if I was on Coke, you wouldn't say, hey man, don't quit, just
Right,
do one line a day.
right,
Don't, there's no need for you to stop.
right.
But, when it's alcohol, it's like,
Mhm.
well, you don't need to quit. What,
Yeah,
just
something's
cut
wrong with you if
back.
you don't have a drink.
Right. And it's hard to be social.
Hmm.
There's lots of stigma around it. Well, what was wrong with you? Why did you have to quit? You poor thing, you can't drink. But what I've realized is all the benefits. I mean, it's easier to lose weight. I have more energy. I sleep better. My skin's better. I mean, my liver works better. I mean, think about all the things and so I went through this challenge basically to try to go for a year without drinking. And it was pretty tough. And I talk about it, in my book, how painful and how to get off of it. But once I did, I was like, man, after the year, I was like, well, maybe I should go back to having a glass of wine or having a beer now and then. But I thought, why would I do that? I feel so much
Hmm.
better without it.
Hmm.
So I think it's been a big part of my willingness to step out of my comfort zone. You know what? If I can do something hard like that, go against the grain, go against
Right.
society, then maybe I can write a book. Maybe
Ooh,
I can become a coach. Maybe I
right.
can do some of these other things, and so yeah, so that's kind of that's kind of the the highlights of the
Right,
story.
right, right. Well, it's interesting that you say that about about the stigma about drinking, because it's so easy. And what I see is the stigma of people who have problematic drinking.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, you should just stop, as if it's just flipping a light switch. Yet when the people do stop, no one, not no one, but the loneliness that people feel, like, they go to barbecues, especially, it's summer, or you go to a work event, you're trying to date, or whatever these different situations are, alcohol is almost always involved, and you have to there are some people who can just say I don't like alcohol, and that's fine. But if people, I find, knew you when you were drinking, then it's like you have to go into your deep dark secrets as to why you're not drinking now. There's that humiliation I see that sometimes goes with that.
Yeah. And, I think we're trying to change the culture. There's a lot more people nowadays who are like me, who were a middle-aged drinker, love to drink. I didn't drink any more than anybody else, but, I just said, it's not for me anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. And now there's alternatives. I mean, Sam Adams has it's called Just the Haze.
Oh, I didn't know they came out with one.
Yeah, it is like all the breweries now are even coming out with alcohol-free alternatives. I mean, it's a big movement, Patrick. I think, society's starting to say, hey, I feel better without it. If I choose not to drink, you shouldn't. I should still be able to go. I go sober dance. I go do whatever. I have my alternative. Or choose whatever. And I think, the way that this movement, it's not the AA, the alcoholic, that whole, negative. This is more of I choose. We call it the fun side of the island, right? I mean, it's why not, choose this. And people are better able to reach their goals. There's just so many negatives to alcohol. People think, and as a counselor, people think, oh, it relaxes me, it makes me feel better. It's a freaking depressant, man. It's not good for you.
Well, and you also said in your bio that in your book you have a system that you use, and could you share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. Hey, again, another first. Patrick, you're my so I'm so excited. But yeah, so it's called pre-cans, and it's just a mnemonic that I use to keep me in check. And so it is, the P is for your passion or your purpose. The R is for rest and recovery. E is for exercise. C is for connection. A is for the alcohol free. N is for nutrition, and S is for sleep. Because what you realize is with those are the foundation, if you will, of being healthy. And when those things are out of whack, it affects every area of your life. Right. If you are, drinking, a bottle of wine a night, then you're not going to sleep well. You're not going to probably eat well. You're going to pick up pizza instead of prepping food. You're not going to exercise as much. I mean, all the things are affected. And if you don't have, so I kind of address each one of those, what they mean, and they'll mean something different for everybody. But, and then I use this little system. It's my journaling every morning, and I have my little pre-cans there. And then I do a 1 to 10. And, every day it's a different number, because some days, let's face it, some days I do order the pizza and I veg on Netflix. Some days I do skip the gym. I mean, we're all human. But when you start looking and you see, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm feeling like this. I realize when my sleep is a 2 or 3, because I've been out, stayed out, had a lot of things going on, or my nutrition is low, 4, I've been eating bad, I can tell in my body. So I'm giving myself the best. I'm making I loved your tagline, be the best version that you can be of yourself. Right. And that to me is how I keep a focus on it. It's a journey. Right. It's not, it's not a perfection. It's not
a light switch.
Right. But it does help you, because it keeps you, like focused on the things that are important and will make a difference. So that's kind of my system.
Wow, that's wonderful. Now, is that part of the coaching that you do, or is that something totally different?
Yeah, no, it's part of the coaching. So my coaching, I got my certification in October, and I'm really still, I've had lots of clients with different, needs, I guess you'd say. A lot of them are women. I think I kind of draw people that are, like me in the second half of life, who are tired of putting themselves last. They, they find themselves, they took care of their kids, they took care of their husband, they did whatever. And here they are, they've only got this much life left. I mean, out of the, you're born and I hope I have quite a few years, but you know what I'm saying? Yes. It's not, I have less than I had. And it's time, if you want to do something with your life, this is one life. You get one precious life. And if you don't, you can't just keep hoping that one day you're going to do something. You have to make time to take care of yourself. So most of them have been like women who either have been putting themselves last, they've been workaholics, working way too much, or they've been putting everybody first and not taking care of themselves and feeling, bad about themselves. I've got one client who was, dealing with weight issues. I've got another client who is trying to quit drinking, so, I think health and wellness, that's kind of, I'm not like specialized necessarily, but it's to me, I think now with the book coming out, to be able to share like I am here,
Right.
And talk to people, and maybe it'll work for somebody else. I don't know.
Right. Spreading those seeds of hope.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting, I just kind of wanted to go back to something you said, where it's sort of an alternative to maybe AA, which, even though, and I know that that saves people's lives and it changes, for some people it's not the right vibe. Like, and it's hard, because I'm always looking for someone who might say, for resources, who might say, AA or NA really isn't, I'm looking for something, but that isn't it. So I love learning about different programs and approaches of saying, hey, maybe try this, and maybe this is the right recipe for you. And
Yeah.
I think it's amazing and inspiring that you are speaking to a population that I think gets negated a lot and invalidated of, okay, like you're saying, not only is it the second half of your life, but also being a woman who maybe has spent her whole life with other people, or empty nest syndrome, or life changes. Like, we talk about midlife crisis a lot with men, but I think women have their own, like, hey, my life is half over, and
Yeah.
my kids might be gone, or my job, I might lose it, and the struggle that I see sometimes, like, where alcohol becomes that consistent companion, and
Yes.
the struggles to acknowledge, okay, this is becoming problematic. This is affecting my health, but also, is it affecting the relationships with the people around?
Yeah. And I think our society, again, not to blame, but women are really being targeted. You think about the mommy juice, you think about the fancy
Oh
cocktails
yeah.
with all the, think about cupcake wine and the cosmopolitan, all the fancy drink. I mean, they're marketing to women, and on TV, everybody's got a wine. I mean, it's just what you do. And if you and I think people have normalized it so much. I thought to myself, as I did so much research on what alcohol does to your body and how it affects you. And I mean, we all know it's not good for us. And I remember trying to find studies, Patrick. I would, like, I'm a nurse, right? I know these things, but
Yeah.
I'd be trying to find these studies, and I'd find one study that would say, "Oh, red wine's good for your heart." I was like, "Whoo, yeah, I can drink, yeah."
Are healthy, are
Right,
healthy. And
heart
even
healthy
that
bullshit.
mentality of, like, if I just have that one study, I can justify it.
Right. So, but I would try to get those studies and to convince myself and make myself feel better, knowing that, drinking 3 glasses of wine at night, was not healthy and in nobody's heart, and
Right.
and the glasses, I mean,
Bigger and
it's
bigger and
just a
bigger.
joke. Yeah. And today, now, new studies are coming out that say no amount of alcohol is safe, and more women and men are experiencing liver disease at a younger age. I mean, drinking has, and I think it's because it is so insidious. I mean, it's just you can't go anywhere without it. I mean, it's every ball game, it's every social event. And so I thought, gosh, why would our society do this to us? But then when you think back at cigarettes, I don't know if you're old enough, you're pretty young, but back in the day, cigarettes were on TV, people smoked in the hospitals.
Yeah.
And our society, billboards and magazines, and everybody smoked. And then finally, it took the culture to say, this is killing us.
Right.
This stuff is killing us. This stuff is bad for us. And they had to combat that. And I think that's where alcohol is now. I just think people don't even realize how much it does affect your body.
Well,
I mean,
and it was funny, because as I was getting ready for our talk tonight, I was kind of just thinking about even the last 2.5 years. And I remember having conversations with people across the board of, when everything was shut down, liquor stores were still allowed to be open. And because I think people were afraid that people might go into withdrawal or freak out if they didn't have it, and restaurants were able to do it. Was such an interesting thing to observe, that with everything shut down, people were overeating. I mean, I know I did. Like, it was like, oh, I don't know what to do, so let's order burger and fries, and
Right.
then you can get alcohol delivered or alcohol to go. It was interesting to observe
It's
in our
essential.
worlds.
It's essential, Patrick. Gotta have it.
It was really interesting.
And people really drank a lot during the pandemic. I mean, there was nowhere to drive to.
Mhm,
There was no, you were working from home if you were working.
mhm.
And so, and the 12 o'clock noon became the 10 o'clock, or the 5 o'clock became 3 o'clock. I was already off alcohol by then. I've been no alcohol for 3.5 years. So I I'm thankful, because I probably would have drank a lot during
Mhm.
that pandemic time. But I mean, I'm not saying that everybody needs to be a teetotaler. I'm not, and most people in my family drink. My husband drinks and people around me drink. For me, moderation was not working.
Right,
And it was
right.
harder for me to say, okay, I'm just going to have this baby glass of wine, 3 times a week, or whatever the keep changing, like I said. But even if it is 3 times a week, okay, can I have it today? Oh, well, what about a beer? Can I have one beer instead of 3 drinks? I mean, it just got, and then it
Consuming.
was almost like I was battling with myself to try
Right.
to, oh, how much should I drink? Should I drink this? And when I quit and actually gave my body the break, the benefits, the sleep, just being able to sleep 8 hours a
Mm.
night, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning with heart palpitations, dehydrated because you drank too much the night before.
Cranky.
I mean, it's not good. It's
Right.
not good. So anyway, I think, I would say to anybody who, if you only have a beer once in a while, fine. If drink a glass of wine at a restaurant once a week or whatever, I'm not, that's fine. But if you are, and people know, you know yourself. If you talk to you think about yourself, you know what your consumption's like.
Mhm,
If you're
mhm.
drinking every day, even if it's one glass of wine, if you're drinking every day, you might want to consider taking a break
Right.
and just, you know, give it a
Or
shot.
or
You can
even
always
I
come
think it's
back to it.
interesting, or even asking yourself that I love that conversation of even suggesting that, seeing what your reaction is, and
Right.
that's going to be very telling. And I think also, I know you are talking about alcohol, but that I think is any substance or addiction or behavior. Like I was in teaching a graduate program once, and I said, what would it be like if I took your cell phones for a day? And like the daggers, of just like, that addiction can be so consuming, and some things,
Yeah.
like you're saying, are more acceptable and more approved in society than others. But being able to have that conversation with yourself of saying, what would it be like if I stop this? Does it bring anxiety, anger?
Right.
It would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, as soon as I told myself I needed to cut back, I wanted to double down. So, and you're right about the addiction piece. I mean, I think about sugar,
Mm,
oh my gosh. I mean, when I first quit drinking, I was eating cakes like there was no tomorrow, because, I needed that sugar. And it doesn't matter if it's scrolling, if it's working, you're right. And we are great at trying to be busy with other things.
right, right.
And not, yeah.
And also, and I think distraction and disconnection, for a lot of people, is I don't want to feel the pain, or I don't want to be
Yes.
with myself, or I don't want to deal with my trauma or my mental health or my physical issues or my abusive marriage or my dead end career. It's something that numbs the pain.
Yep. And and I think that's why, like I said, after my sister died, I think that's when I really noticed that I was eating bad. I was drinking more, because I was so sad. I mean, it
Mhm.
was just my mom, then my sister. I mean, those are big, major,
Yeah, losses.
relationship and losses. And she was so young. She was younger than me, and it was just so sad. And I think I was numbing, I was just trying to cope. When I got off the alcohol, Patrick, the flood of emotions and the stuff to grief and all
Mm.
the things it was pretty overwhelming. Yeah.
And what helped you with that? I'm being flooded with that.
Yeah. So I mean, I did go see my therapist some, I'll be honest. I think that getting help when you need it is so important, to go and have somebody to talk to or whatever. But I also started doing healthier things.
Okay.
So when I quit drinking, I started exercising, and the endorphins in that, I got into yoga, I got into, some activities which changed from just sitting at night, because I could go places, I could do things because I couldn't drive. You
Oh,
drink a glass
right,
and you shouldn't be
right,
driving.
right.
So I mean, if you think about all the things that are involved in it, and I did a lot of reading, and I did a lot of journaling and soul searching. I mean, it was really the self-development piece. I say I got alcohol out of the way so that I could really focus on,
You.
making my life the best, and accepting myself, I say with all my imperfections, because it's hard to, not to look at yourself and see all the negative. And I suffered so long in that, oh, you're this, you're that, but all the negative, his voice became my voice, and I don't know if
Mm,
my voice may have been before his voice. Do you know what I
right.
mean? And maybe that's how I ended up with him. But at the end of the day, I had to stop it. I had to stop the pattern of, oh, you're not good enough, all these limiting beliefs that we hold. And, oh, I can't do that, I
Mhm.
could never talk on somebody's podcast, I could never show up there, I could never write a book, nobody would like it, nobody would. You tell yourself such negative stories, that you stop yourself from doing
Mhm.
the things that you want to do.
Right,
And
right.
one of my clients gave me one of the best compliments, I guess. She said, you know Janet, since I've been working with you, she said, you gave me permission to do the things I love. And I was like,
Oh,
wow, that made me just so happy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
she's
That's
75 years
powerful.
old, Patrick. She needs to get on
Wow.
it, right?
She's not stopping down. Just getting started. That's exciting.
Right. Right.
That's so amazing. And how powerful is that? You helped me to get permission to be able to do things that I wanted. And that voice is so powerful of
Yeah.
the judgment, the comparison of whatever you're working on. And it's like, sometimes you just gotta like throw it. It's like, who cares? Like, just
Right.
get out of my own way and just jump in and try it and see. I was working on a project recently and it wasn't going the way I wanted. So, that doubt came in of thinking,
Yeah.
well, what if I fail? And
Right.
then I was walking my dog and I just had this moment of revelation of saying, but I can't possibly fail because I tried.
Right.
I was like, what? What? I was just like, it was kind of like I started seeing the sun a little bit brighter of how deep those negative thoughts can be of,
Yeah.
but you tried. So you can't really fail
Yeah.
because you did try.
Well, yeah, it's even like with this book, I've been working on it, and this is like the third rendition that I have finally, this is where I was finally happy that, okay, this is it, kind of thing. And I got willing to put it out there. And then I got it done. And then I don't know how many weeks it took me to even think about putting it up, and then, like I said, I got my copy today, but it's been out there for, a week, and I haven't told anybody. And,
Wow.
it's those same things, Patrick. It's like, what if it's not good enough? What if people don't
Right.
like it? What if I'm not a good writer? What if I made a mistake in it? What if? I mean, obviously I paid an editor and all that kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
I'm just saying, it's that negative, that fear of not being good enough. But that's where I have to say, at the end of the day, I'm just me. And
Yeah.
I
And you're
have to
telling your
just,
story.
yeah, it's my story. Yeah. So
That's amazing. So tell me a little bit more about, I mean, you mentioned a little bit. How did the book come to fruition specifically?
yeah. So honestly, it was before the pandemic. It was 2018, and I had quit my stressful job. It was after my sister had died. And my mom got a diagnosis. She was 59, and she had pancreatitis. pancreatic cancer, and they told her she had 6 months to live. She lived 10 months and died. Well, and then, that was it 20 years ago. And then almost something identical happened with my sister in 2016.
Wow.
She got lung cancer. They said, you got 6 months to live. She lived, about 12, well, about 10 months again. And I was just like, you know what, I'm next. I just felt really like, oh my gosh, that's what's going to happen to me. I'm working these stressful jobs. I'm just doing work. And somebody's going to give me this death sentence, and I'm never going to get to have any time off. I'm never going to get to do what I want. I'm never going to get to. And so at some point, I don't know why I did it or how I got the courage or whatever. My husband was very supportive, but I just quit my job. I just said, I'm bye. And they were like, what? I'm like, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have another job. I didn't have insurance. I didn't know what I was going to do. Right?
A leap of faith.
Yeah, it was all I knew was in my mind. I was like, I'm going to take 3 months off and enjoy my life, not with a death sentence, just now. And, because that was all I could think of. Well, once I got through the 3 months, I'm like, what do I want to do? So I was trying to figure out, what I wanted to do. And I said, you know what, I want to write a book. And so it was during that time that I started. But what I did was just threw out all the, all the terrible things that happened. Right. And so I had a friend of mine who, he has a PhD, and he's an editor. And so I said, hey, would you mind reading this? And he read it, and he was like, I don't know that you want. He didn't say don't share this, but he was like, this is pretty raw. He just kept like, And so I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, that, because I went through the abuse. I went through all the it was very therapeutic.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
To get it out, right? I wrote it all out, but not really what I wanted to share with the whole world.
Right. But a good jumping step.
Yeah. So then I thought, okay, it was after this last, self-development journey. And I said, you know what? I know what I want. It was after I had quit alcohol. It was, my life was changing. I was feeling so much better. I was like, you know what? I need to go back and kind of show where I've been, tell people, hey, if I can do it, you can do it, and help them through the, here's how I did it. And so it became it's my story. And I used some of the, things that I had already written and some of the stories. But then I moved forward with, hey, here's how it worked for me. This is what I do. This is how I, and so it's part, journey, my story, and it's part self-help book.
That's beautiful.
And that was it. I knew that was it. I knew that was it. So that's how it came about.
Wow, I can't wait to get it. I'm so excited because we need more, right? I find in any clinical book I've ever read, the ones that stick with me are the ones where I can hear someone's story, because then it's real.
Yeah.
And I can connect to their journey, to their pain, to their humanity, and to their resilience and their hope. And then it's that's how I learn, where it's like, okay, how can I relate this to myself and then make it more applicable? So I'm very excited about this.
I just kind of talk to you in the book.
Right.
I mean, I write like I talk. And so it's not a PhD level, some sort of fancy words in there. It's just like me and you talking.
Right. Right. So, and I love those. I think those are the best.
Yeah.
I think those.
No, but I'm really excited. I hope, again, I've still got that a little bit of like, what are people going to think or whatever. But you know what? I had 3 people read it, kind of my test group or whatever. And they were 3 ladies that were in kind of my group. And they all said, this is so inspiring. I love it. This is helpful. And so it gave me the courage to go ahead and push forward.
Wow.
So
I'm so glad you did. I can't wait to get a copy.
Yeah.
This is so cool. So, I was just thinking too, as we were talking about, it's so mind blowing to me that the medical field has become probably one of the most stressful and I don't know what even adjective to use. Like, I want to say abused, but that's not the right word. But I just feel like anyone who I talk to in the medical field is just burnt. They're just exhausted. They're defeated. And what I keep hearing, and maybe you can share some of your experiences, that it's never about really the clients or the treatment. It's always about the bureaucracy and management and the expectation that you're supposed to work an inhumane amount of hours and just shut up and smile and do it.
Yeah. It's really sad. I mean, I'm going to be 60 this year. So I've been in healthcare my whole life. My first job in high school, I worked at a physician clinic. And
Wow.
and I've always worked in healthcare, almost every single job I've ever had, and working with doctors. And I was back in the day, this is really making me feel old, but I actually worked for this older doctor and his new partner, and he was still bartering services for like eggs and stuff. I'm not
Oh,
kidding.
wow.
You know, well, it was a small town, so
Right.
but the young guy came in and got the computer system, and I helped read. And that poor old doctor was, but I mean, the point is that back in the day, doctors took care. They knew their patients. I mean, we have come so far in the opposite direction, and it's become, I've seen so many good nurses and good physicians who couldn't make the transition. First it was the electronic medical records.
Mhm.
I saw so many nurses. I mean, we all charted by hand, we all did our whatever, and these nurses were great nurses, but when the computer came in, they had no experience, and they were expected to keep up and chart, and they couldn't do it. So we lost a ton of people there. Same way with these physicians, as reimbursement keeps getting cut with Medicare and all the the things that they're trying to do, the physicians have to either do more, see, I mean, they are the service, right? They have to see more patients. They don't have time. I mean, and so you see people who loved their patients and always took time with them. They're in there on their computers. Do they, I mean, you've been to the doctor. Do they don't have time to even look up at you. They're, and so I think anybody who goes into healthcare to take care of people gets frustrated with the system that we're
Yes.
in.
And
So
it is sad. I see that where I've known so many amazing nurses and people in the medical field who just have hearts of gold. And they love what they do. They love the people. They love being in the healing field. But it gets to that point where they can't take it. Like
right.
physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, it just breaks them.
Yeah.
And I think COVID, did a lot, but it also, I think systems really need a revolution to say, hey, these are people too. Like we can't treat sick people with sick people.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, the COVID situation was some of the worst. I have some really close friends who still work, in ICU and in some of the, and I mean, they would just get on, beg, that, gosh, people, please wear a mask, please, stay home, please, whatever. I mean, just they were seeing unprecedented amounts of patients. And so, I don't know. I hope we've turned the corner a little bit, but the other thing is a lot of people are not going into medicine, Patrick, now because of this. And so
Wow.
it's getting shorter and shorter. I mean, we have less and less clinicians because people don't want to go into it. So I don't know, it's sad, especially, seeing it from where it was to where it is. But I will say that there are still so many wonderful
Mhm.
caregivers out there. And, once you're in it, you just can't stop.
Right. And I think
So,
what I'm seeing too, what I love is when, and I wish more insurances would do this, would cover different types of healing, like acupuncture, massage therapy, all the
yes.
different things that are really powerful and do help that might alleviate some of that tension on nurses
Oh,
in the medical stuff. It would just that they need as well, right? To deal with the stress
exactly. Yeah.
of being
I
front
tell you,
lines.
that is, yeah, don't get me on my soapbox about this, because to me, it's like, we as the physicians and the healthcare community, we don't address the person as a whole. We just they come in for this and we give them a pill or we give them a prescription. We don't, how many times our diet and our lifestyle and all the things, the alcohol use, the eating the bad foods. I mean, we do so many of these disease processes to ourselves but we don't address that as a healthcare society. You come in and you're overweight and you're drinking too much and smoking, whatever you're doing, they may say, hey, you should stop smoking, but they write your prescription for a cholesterol medicine, a blood pressure medicine, and then you get diabetes, they give you diabetes medicine instead of, how about trying to reverse this? How about looking at your lifestyle? How about looking at your diet? How about looking at, like you said, alternative things? How about meditation or acupuncture or aromatherapy or some of the things that, it doesn't cost anything, So it's sad to me that they don't even consider, prevention as it's just about writing a prescription and getting out of there.
And it's interesting because I had a young doctor on during the last year. She, I think, had just graduated when she was on Friday Night Feels. So we were just talking about that. And one of her experiences was she was so surprised of the trauma going through her education. And being pushed, and I'm sure as a nurse you saw the same thing, like being put in a program where it's like you have to do these 24-hour shifts, you have to do this, you have to do that. And she said it's taken so long for me to like heal from that. And she goes, I know I'm going to have to probably do more work, but it's another part of the system that needs to be addressed, that our providers need to be taught, hey, this is how you do self-care so you can have a life of longevity. Like you're saying, whether they have addiction issues or not, that longevity, that wealth, that healing is sadly undervalued and invaluable.
It really is. And I think there is a lot of hope. I see, as in my career, as I started hiring physicians that were younger than me, I started seeing that they would come in and a lot of them were like, you know what, I'm not going to work. I'm not taking call 30, I'm not taking call every night. I'm only going to take call 10 days a month. I'm only going to work blah, 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 because I want to have my wife and kids, so they talk about lifestyle balance, I mean, the doctors back in the other generation just did it. I mean, just around the clock, did whatever. But I think the new generation, the younger doctors are starting to, put some boundaries and at least try, to balance their, their life. Because again, I know that back in the day and in previous generations that you work, and you missed out on so much with your kids. I mean, especially men, and the previous generations. I mean, and so I think, there's a lot of changing going on in our society, and it's not all for the bad. I mean, there's some
hope.
good.
We're fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
One other thing too, Janet, that I was wondering, and then I want to talk more about your Friday lives or your Facebook lives, is do you, in your experience, eliminating alcohol, do you see alcohol as a coping skill in the medical field by professionals?
Oh, I've got some stories. You don't want to talk
we'll have
about
to have you come back and get into some of those Friday Night Feels after dark.
Yeah, I tell you, I remember working with some physicians, and I mean, we all, I mean, we all drank so much. We'd have these recruitment dinners. I talk about it in my book, how, I mean, we would drink so much that it's like, and then drive home, I mean, we just, I don't know. It is definitely a coping mechanism. And, I think a lot of times it is the overachievers. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Naked Mind by Annie Grace,
No.
but that was one of the first books that I read when I was trying to quit drinking or whatever.
Okay.
And man, her story was so intense. She said, that she had to drink with her job almost because people, everybody does it, and you look like, you're not part of the group or whatever. And she drank. But it's a lot of times, she said, the overachievers. It's the people who are highly educated, the people who have all kinds of, the high stress that do use alcohol to cope. So that's interesting when you picture, or when you think about an alcoholic. Oh, you think about the guy in the, in the park with his brown bottle or whatever, his paper bag. Whereas the truth is, so many people who are very highly educated, who have great accolades and lots of letters behind their name, are using alcohol. Maybe they're not alcoholics, they're functioning alcoholics, or they're functioning whatever. I mean, I don't even think the term alcoholic is a good one at this point. I think that it turns people away from even, trying to look at their drinking.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, just like I told you, if somebody came to me and said, hey, you're alcoholic, you need to go AA, I would have never done it. I wouldn't have done it because I didn't need it. I never got a DUI. I never had any financial problems. I went to work every day. That's not the same thing. But I think that piece, and whether it's like you said, whether it's addictions or whether it's something, it's so much pressure. There's got to be a pop-off valve, right? And if it's not something healthy, what's it going to be?
Right. And so can you tell me a little bit more, kind of like segueing into, so you've written the book, you become the coach, you're helping people, in different aspects of their wellness, you're a nurse. And so what are these Facebook Lives that you're doing on Sunday mornings?
So every Sunday morning, I come on and I do just talk about different topics. It can be anything. This Sunday, I'm going to talk about how to survive summer.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, I mean, people do all kinds of crazy things in the summer. But one of the things that they do is, immediately when you think of summer, you think of cold beer, margarita, frozen drinks. I mean, so what can we do? So that's one piece of it. The other thing is, we put so much pressure on ourselves to have these vacations with our families, and we build these vacations up in our minds, and then we're all disappointed. We spend all this money and all this time preparing for our vacations, and then our expectations are not realistic, and so I've got like I think it's about 10 tips that I walk through, things that you can do to enjoy the summer. Most of the time, Patrick, in my sober Sundays, whether it's half the time, I don't even talk about alcohol. It's just about hydration. It's about caring for yourself. It's about, whatever the topic is. Last week I talked about freedom, freedom from your bad habits, from the things that you tell yourself. I remember saying to myself for years, that I was, I've got the fat gene. I'm always going to be fat. My family was overweight. But that's what I told myself, right? And of course, you got to change the story. You got to tell yourself the new story.
Right.
So,
and that's so hard. Why do you think that's hard for people, in your experience, to change the narrative?
I think that, I think that we somehow, some way in the back of, and it can be anywhere, right? It can be somebody told you something. It could be something you felt, a family member. This girl told me this story that she loved to sing, and she was in, I don't know if she was in middle school, high school. She went, she started singing, and this music teacher told her that she wasn't a good singer and that she really should try something else. And she told me, she was in my self-development class, and she told me that all these years later, she loved to sing, but she would never sing publicly. And she started challenging it when we started talking and learning about these new beliefs and telling ourselves a new story and doing the things that we love. And she said, and you know what? She's singing in a community theater now. She's on stage. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think I think part of the reason that we don't address it is because we don't know that we have the power to do it. I
Mhm.
think that we just think that's the way it is. We don't challenge it, right? I
Right,
mean,
right,
you know,
right.
I'm overweight. I'm always going to be overweight. I'm not athletic. I was always picked last in high school on the team. So
Mhm.
I'm not coordinated. I'm not good,
Right,
whatever it is that we tell ourselves. And so we just stay in that and we keep it in our little box
right,
and we don't push out and try. And so I think I try, to say you can do it,
right,
give it a
right,
try,
right.
you know. And if you think about it, what kind of things did you do when you were a kid, before you drank, before you smoked, before you, worked and did, what kind of things did you do that you love? Do you do
Right.
any of those today?
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good question. That's awesome. It was funny. I worked with college students for a while with addiction. Well, not even addiction. It was a lot of education and preventative pieces, and I would see a lot where there was a lot of binge drinking, and we would. It's like I would kind of ask them the questions like, so let's say you had 15 drinks. Like, would you drink 15 Mountain Dews? Would you drink 15 Cokes or 15 Red Bulls? And they're like, oh no. I'm like, yeah, like not we normally don't drink 15 to 20 consumptions of something. Like something's wrong here. It's
Right.
not, and then you're having all of these negative consequences.
Yeah.
And it's not in a judgmental way. And I think historically, long, the dark ages, there was that shame piece, break them down and then rebuild them. And that doesn't work because there's already something not working that
Right.
the addiction is latched onto. So we got to bring in hope, healing, and
Yeah.
recovery in whatever approach that is. Of we got to get this forgiveness, we got to heal, we got to figure out how do we get fulfillment, how do we live without being something's puppet.
Yeah. And being a slave to our own those own limiting beliefs.
Right, right,
We're a slave to these things that maybe somebody like her teacher told her 30 years ago.
right,
And I
right,
guarantee you, if you saw him, he would even remember saying that.
right,
And yet it have affected her life,
right,
you know? And so we need to challenge and we need to empower people to challenge these thoughts about themselves and these limiting negative things that we tell ourselves. And I talk about it in my book how, so many times you think you're the only one
right,
who has that.
right,
And it's not until you get around some people who are vulnerable too, who are willing to share their feelings and
hmm
their vulnerability. And then you're like, oh, wow. And you see, like, look, here's Patrick. He's got this show. He's on the video. He's this, he's that, But if I were to ask you, there's times when you're nervous, there's times when you don't feel confident,
hmm
but we all look at each other as put together.
right,
And we all look at the Facebook people that
yes.
aren't real,
Right. Yeah, social media, and I think of the Wizard of Oz. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. It's like, well, we all have a little piece behind the curtain that we have to see, and then we're all in a little bit more, normalizing it.
Right,
That
right.
we all struggle with something.
But I think that that's a huge part of it, is trying to get people to realize that, they are good right where they are, that there is, to challenge the things, to go for the things they want to do and to do the things they want to do. And don't let fear or comparison or negative things that other people think or say do stop you.
Right.
It's hard though. I mean, I'm saying it, but look
Yeah.
at me,
Right.
I'm still like nervous too,
Right.
I mean, we're all in this together.
Yeah, and I think it is so exciting, and I think too that's what one of the pieces too that I love about coaching, because that's the one thing that I keep hearing is, that it's everyone's like, well, why do you do coaching instead of therapy? And it's probably just like nursing. It's like it's a different vibe. It gives you a different skill set. It helps you to be there for people. I think people are a little more open to coaching in the support of it because they want that just like athletes, just like I remember I had someone who was on the show who said, it was at the time of the Olympics, and he said, look at every athlete that's at the Olympic from around the world. They all have coaches.
Absolutely.
And don't we all deserve the same support for our goals, our dreams, and our, ambition? And I just always love that.
I love
Yes,
that.
yes, we
It's
all deserve that.
it's true. And for me, the reason I think coaching is so cool is because it's not focused on the, negative, disease process
Right,
about, depression and all the other things that people who are just normal, I say, or just who don't have major, mental health issues, still need someone to talk to.
right,
They still need to have space to think about what they want out of life, what their
right.
values are, and giving them that space. I think that's the biggest thing that I do. I think that, I'm sure you feel the same way, that letting them, because nobody listens to anybody
Right,
anymore.
right, right. But everyone, I think the need for support is greater than ever.
Agreed.
So if someone was interested in wanting to know more about coaching or connecting with you, how would they get a hold of you, Janet?
So if you can remember Bliss Beyond the Buzz, you can find me anywhere.
Okay,
That's my website. It's, www.blissbeyondthebuzz.com. That's my Facebook page, Bliss Beyond the Buzz. I'm on Instagram,
okay.
and my email address is info@blissbeyondthebuzz.com. So yeah, you can Google me, I'll come up. Any which way you want to reach out to me. I'm pretty responsive, and
All right, great. And what I normally do too is, sometimes it's if people I usually follow, and that way, if they have any questions, they can reach out to me as well, and then I can just connect you with anyone. Because I'm just thinking there's just so many people I would love to introduce your book to that could probably relate to. So
thank
I'm so
you.
excited, and I think the work you're doing is so beautiful and inspiring. So I'm so honored that you were able to not only join us for Friday Night Feels, but also share the premiere of your book, which I wish
Oh,
the greatest success, and
thank you.
to really just spread and help people to really find themselves, and to it sounds like a really love-based and approach of, this isn't about shame or judgment or
No,
anger. It's about healing those wounds to
yeah,
be who you're meant to be, which is
yeah,
beautiful. So
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I appreciate you inviting me, and I'm glad we were able to connect on this. And I wish you great success.
Thanks.
And I think we're just connected, see, with our backgrounds and stuff. So
Yes,
that's super
so
cool.
I always ask, I have one final question that I always ask all of my guests.
Okay.
And what is one piece of advice that you would like to have the audience leave with tonight?
Okay. This is the thing that I would say is, it's a three stepper, but drink 8 ounces of water a day, walk 20 minutes a day, or move your body 20 minutes a day, and write 3 things that you're grateful for. Those 3
Oh,
things, if you do those for just a couple weeks consistently, it's going to change your life.
oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
So,
And thank you so much for joining us on Friday Night Feels. It's been an honor having you here tonight.
all right. Thank you, Patrick. We'll see
Sure.
you.
Yes, and thank you to everyone who watches and supports. And just remember, we're on the YouTube if you want to watch it, or also on the podcast platforms. And just a quick plug, I talked about this last time for anyone who might be interested. Friends of mine in South Africa are working on something called Mandala Monday, which is the 18th of July, which helps raise money for the South African AIDS orphans. And so basically, it's, you make a donation, and if you're doing any walking, running, or anything like that, it's a great way to give back. I think the donation is like $6, which I think for most of us is like a latte. So if anyone's interested in getting involved with that, please, I'm just trying to support it for the kiddos. Just reach out to me so we can, help the little ones as well. So I hope everyone has a beautiful weekend, and we'll see you next time here on Friday Night Feels.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.